What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Fearless here, and today we're going to take a look at how you can mix your kick and your 808 together to slap in the mix. So if you're ready for that, let's jump right into this. Alright guys, so we're first going to talk about how I set up the kick inside of my sampler. Basically what I do is I make sure that snap is always turned off, because when snap is on, as you can see here, it's going to cut off a little bit of the sample. So just click that off and you'll be good to go. Next thing I do is I set the voices to 1, because you only want one voice. These are both supposed to be mono instruments, so there's no reason to have more than one of them. Now for the kick in particular, I don't need any decay on it afterwards. I just want it to be short and thumpy. So I turn the decay all the way down and I leave the release at 50. But one other thing that I'm doing is if you go into your controls tab here, you have more controls over what's going on. So by default, your velocity is actually set to 35 in Ableton when you load in a new sample. But what you can do is you can crank that bad boy up all the way, but be prepared to turn down the volume, because if you have that all the way up, it's going to go freaking crazy. And in my MIDI as well, you'll notice that all my notes, the velocity is up all the way on them. So if you want to make sure your velocity is up all the way in both instances there, that way you're getting the hardest hit out of your kick possible. And then from there, all it is literally leveling. So I'll show you what I mean by it hits ridiculously hard when you set both the velocities up. It literally sounds like this. Alright, so it's hitting 15.8 above, and yeah, it sounds disgusting. It sounds horrible. It doesn't sound good. Alright, one other thing I want to notice here is on my pre-master right now, which is basically linked to my master, I have a classic clipper on it. Alright, so I got my classic clipper here, and it's all the original settings. I'm not doing anything different. I just loaded the bad boy on here. So if you don't have classic clipper and you don't want to spend the money, you can use one of Ableton's effects here called Saturator. And what you do with Saturator is you can just leave all the settings how they are, and you just turn the soft clip on. And right there, it'll clip it off for you, and it'll make it sound right. So let's turn off this classic clip. And then with the classic clip on instead. So a little bit different sound, but it's still clipping it the same way. Besides that, guys, the only other thing is just leveling out and making it sound good. So let's go over to the 808 really quick. So the main things you need to keep in mind in your 808 is that you want it to be in key, okay? So whatever key your melodies are in, you want to make sure your 808 is hitting in the same range as them. So if you're like me and you made your melodies, you can literally use the bottom notes in your melodies right here to determine where your 808 should be hitting, okay? So if I place my 808 on any of these bottom notes, it's going to sound good, especially if I time them out right to where they're all sitting in there at the right timing. But since I'm in a D major, if I use any of these notes, it's all going to be in the right key, all right? All right, with the 808 sample, I also turn that snap off. Sometimes it doesn't affect the 808s because they play towards the full length of them. But when they do, you can just turn that snap off and it's good to go. All right, you pick one voice. Again, we're going to keep this in mono. We don't want to play multiple voices at a time. And, you know, I don't even mess with any of these settings down here. The decay is fine. The release is fine. It all sounds good how it is. The only thing else that I would change with the 808 is the gain. All right, so you can see that I actually put 3 dBs of gain on the 808. So normally it would be 0 like this. And you just raise it up until it starts to sound right. So this is what it sounds like at 0. All right, you can see that it's hitting right here. It's not really going towards the top, and we want it to hit close to 0, if not past 0. So when we turn it up 3 decibels louder, all right, it's getting really close to that line. It's about -1. And usually I leave this full blast here and I play with the gain and get the level right, and I don't touch this at all. All right, and then once you have them both together, that's where the real sauce comes in. You got to make sure they sound good together. So normally if I had my kick all the way up, it would sound like this. And you just have to know that that sounds like trash, all right? So you start going down and you find a good level. So this is how I would do it. And that just sounds good to me. So you basically want your kick to be hitting harder over the 808. You want to be able to hear it over the 808, but not too loud to where it's too much and it's just punching through the mix and it sounds really distorted and crappy. Alright guys, and the last tip that I have for you is just make sure you're using good samples. Alright, make sure that your samples aren't from a free drum pack. If you got it from a free drum pack, you can almost guarantee that it's not going to hit the way you want it to. Unless you get one of the good ones. There's a couple good ones out there. But once you find a couple samples that actually sound good, you'll know right away. And then just make sure that you're listening to your kick and 808 with the rest of the mix, with all the rest of the drums to make sure everything's balanced and sounding good, and that there's room for your kick and 808 to stand out. Alright guys, so as you can see, most of the sauce is happening in the levels, alright? You really don't have to put a bunch of crazy plugins on your kick or your 808 to make them hit hard. It's really just about turning the volume up, clipping it if that's what you like to do, or balancing the levels so it's not giving out too much distortion on the rest of your beat. So once you get those levels right, you're pretty much good to go. And there really is no crazy secret sauce to this, nothing that I'm not showing you. I literally gave it up. That's it. That's all there is to it. Literally. So I hope you enjoyed that tutorial, guys. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button because we're uploading new tutorials every single day, bro. And besides that, we'll be catching you again in the next one. Peace out.